Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Let us know if we're live, because we got to talk about Giants training camp day 6. Justin, the days go by, to quote Keith Urban. We're already halfway done. We're over halfway done with Giants training camp practices so far. But let us know if we're live so that we could talk about the actual practices. So we got to get into it. We are live, says Julian and Billy. So we're live to talk about Giants training camp day 6. And I want to do something a little different today.
And today's live stream is brought to you by
Captain Morgan, and that's not different at all. They've brought to you every single stream, and they're going to bring you every single stream in the upcoming future in Spanish. All right, I'm being dumb. All right, let's talk about Giants training camp day 6, but also the biggest news, which, I'm going to do a film breakdown that should come out later tonight. We'll go in depth in our next regular podcast. But the Giants signed Greg van Roten, right? That's something that we've been calling for a couple weeks now, since our last mailbag pod before camp. We literally outlined what the Giants should do with their offensive line on the podcast that came out this morning. And you know what? Maybe Shane listened and said, these boys are right. Let me sign Greg van Roten. So the Giants signed Greg van Roten, who played guard, started all the games of the Raiders last year. Had good, efficiency numbers, right? Was 13th of 85 in pass blocking efficiency. He gave up, 5 sacks, which isn't great for the guard spot. I'm going to watch film, so I'm not going to give a ton of, this is what this guy is, because I don't know. But what I do know is he's someone who's been in the league for a long time, who was really efficient last year under Carmen Brasillo, right? And what I also know is it seems like he's going to stick at right guard, and they may be moving John Runyon back to the left side. So Elminor and Van Roten will be next to each other again. And it also feels like we're just seeing the end of Evan Neal as a starter.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to make this about Evan Neal. I want to make this about the 2024 New York Giants. Bobby, when that news came through, Art Stapleton broke it. Art Stapleton was in the van. This yesterday, and he talked exactly about this, how it could be coming. And dude, I got giddy. I got excited. I started throwing around hey, can the Giants be the first team ever to win 7 regular season games and win the Super Bowl? Just joking, but being a fan and not just being a little pessimistic about the team. Because am I giddy about this offensive line? No. Am I giddy about this football team? No. But do I actually think the Giants, with this signing, have addressed the depth around the 2024? I'm not talking about the future. There's a lot of work that they need to do on the future of that offensive line. But did they do certain things this offseason to address depth issues? And maybe there's still some other things that are going to come. Yes, I 100% think so. And I think today's a good day, and the Giants did get better as a football team today.
Yeah, and again, like you said, this signing doesn't go, oh my gosh, we finally have a great offensive line.
No, but you could get through the year.
What it does is help you avoid disaster with the offensive line, like they saw early last season. So that's what we wanted, and that's what we got. And I still think they could go out and get a backup center, with fill in whoever your favorite free agent center is. Schlotman was struggling with snaps today, but this is a good signing. Even if he isn't very good, right? Even if he's being overrated right now, you go watch the film and he's not that great. He's still going to be better than Aaron Stinney, who's in line to start, and it allows Aaron Stinney not to just be the fifth starter, but be a backup. Yeah, Stinney is depth, which is what he should be. So good to have that. But we're here to talk about practice, and what we're going to do different today.
And Van Roten was suited up. He was suited. He had a jersey on, no pads on, didn't participate, but
would assume he's there Thursday. But Runyon practicing left guard a little bit today.
Yep.
Just starting at right guard does signal that they're going to keep Van Roten at right and put Runyon back at left.
Well, hey, I'm not saying it signals anything. It is a wait and see for me, because hopefully they don't. They were good at the start of camp, where they're like, all right, we want to try and get our 5, and we want to try and keep our 5, and then they've done some rotation stuff, and maybe if JMS doesn't get hurt, maybe they don't do this rotation stuff with guard and John Runyon moving to center and all that weird stuff. Maybe they don't do that.
Yeah.
But hopefully they can get back to more of a solidified 5, and JMS's shoulder injury. Apparently it's the same shoulder as last year, but it's a different concern. But it still doesn't seem like it's a long-term thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully he comes back, and hopefully he is comfortable with that shoulder.
We haven't seen the contract on Van Roten, correct?
Not yet.
Hopefully it's the minimum. Obviously, that's what we're hoping for. But for practice today, this was the first day where the defense just really made plays.
Yeah, it was nice.
Like really, like I thought all three levels made plays, and obviously on the flip side of that, the offense looked bad, and we'll talk about that. But up front now on the interior, Dexter Lawrence wasn't practicing team drill. The interior is still not very good, but there was a handful of would-be sacks, right? Like now they're not killing the tackles, but Kayvon was lined up on Daniel Bellinger, puts him on his ass and on a would-be sack. He then won on a stunt versus Aaron Stinney on a would-be sack, and Bobby Okereke would have gotten a sack on that play too. Kayvon blew up Devin Singletary for a play, and then Brian Burns, this is a tight end, but it's one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL, and Chris Manhertz beat him for a would-be sack too. So like the guys, Kayvon and Brian Burns were making plays. We'll talk about one-on-ones where, like, I'm at a point where it's just hilarious how good Andrew Thomas is. In the secondary, we saw Deonte Banks really get his first real win versus Malik Neighbors today on a hitch.
Kind of teabagged him afterwards, too. It was cool.
Yeah.
He did.
And then Cordell Flott also had a pass breakup on Malik Neighbors on a curl route. Nick McCloud, this was a bad throw by DJ, but dropped an interception. A deep ball to Hyatt on a would-be sack.
Kind of thrown behind Hyatt, too, but still Nick McCloud steps up, makes a play.
To give credit to DJ on that, it was a sack, and it felt like, okay, the play's dead. Just fucking chuck it at this point.
Yeah.
But McCloud was able to, make a play on that. And then the linebackers, too. I don't think Micah McFadden was practicing full today.
No.
I don't know what
happened.
A
lot of Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson basically got all the first-team reps at linebacker.
And he's everywhere.
Unless was and Deontay Johnson looked good, too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he was playing physical, getting downhill, had a couple run stops. Now, Andrew Thomas did ragdoll him on one play, which I enjoyed. And then Bobby Okereke. Like, he had, 3 tackles for a loss or stops at the line of scrimmage. So, it was for a defense that even if the offense hasn't been making plays first team wise, this was their first day where they were out there flying, popping pads and making plays.
Yeah. Even some of the backups too, which we'll get to. But Brian Burns spent a lot of time in the backfield, whether it was as a pass rusher or specifically as a run defender. I thought he had a good day defending the run. The secondary, you mentioned, I think Nick McCloud has just been the best corner in camp so far, especially in terms of making plays on the football, getting your hand and deflecting the pass. You mentioned Deonte Banks with one of his first really good plays against Malik Neighbors. Cordell Flott and Drew Phillips both had nice pass deflections as well. Drew Phillips, it was on a 0 blitz, and it was just like a hot route.
He's had 2 pass breakups, and they've both been on these cover 0 blitzes.
Yeah.
He really struggled in one-on-ones today. Gunnar Olszewski had a move on him that had the crowd going oohing and on.
Which is why I think that Nick McCloud, I believe, was the start. Now, they were running with some interesting packages out there where you actually had McCloud and Phillips on the field
they did that
at the same time. That could also be a Cordell Flott conversation. Then Simmons was also out there, too, who's technically a corner. So this defense does have the potential to show some, like, really interesting personnel packages where you're asking yourself, well, what position is that guy playing? And well, you don't even know. Isaiah Simmons is lining up as a linebacker, and he may
Simmons is actually playing
weird,
like mostly nickel corner, but he's playing. So we went into this camp not knowing how they felt about Simmons. The Hard Knocks clip got everyone excited, even though the fact that they hyped up Boogie Basham, who's looked awful in that clip too. But I'm pretty confident at this point he's making the roster. He's going to have a role.
Yeah, I agree.
It's what they said. There's going to be some early down nickel stuff where they want him to blitz. He had a blitz off the edge today, and cover. When they get in their cover 0 looks and 3rd and long, getting in at linebacker. So there is a role for him on this team, and I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be the exact same role as Wink Martindale, except for they're going to give him some nickel reps where they just basically let him blitz, which is very similar to what Wink Martindale had for him.
Yeah, and something to keep an eye on again is I didn't fully catch it, but what are they doing right now with corner? We're all 3 of these guys had a decent day, I'm pretty sure. Cordell Flott, Nick McCloud, Drew Phillips. How are these guys lining up? If you had asked me, I think McCloud actually was the starting slot corner today, and Drew Phillips took a back seat versus Drew Phillips was the starting slot corner the last 2 days. So that is a battle. But how does that actually progress, and what is the confidence that you have in Cordell Flott being on the outside, and does McCloud need to slide out to the outside? That's the dynamic that I'm juggling with in my brain right now.
Yeah, I think week 1 we end up with McCloud in the slot. He's looked way better there in coverage than Drew Phillips. We know he's a good physical, run defender. I think McCloud ends up starting the season there, and Phillips is probably on the bench. But Cordell Flott, he did have a good play today, but at the same time, throughout all of camp, I think that's his one good play that he has made, right?
Yeah.
And he's been the guy that's been picked on a lot by the first team offense. So that's him having one pass breakup doesn't change any of those concerns, but it was good to see for him. Other things on the first team, or this a little bit of one-on-ones too. Elijah Chapman, right? He was a mini camp invite as 6 foot short, stout defensive tackle out of SNU. Even played a little fullback last year. The Giants signed him as after being a mini camp invite, right? The only other guy to do that was Ryder Anderson, who's getting a lot of first team reps. He killed it in one-on-ones today, right? And he did yesterday as well. He's just so short, compact, and quick, right? So okay, one-on-ones are the drill for that type of player. But he had a sack today. He had the best just one-on-one win sack for anybody on the first team defense, right? We mentioned the Kayvon and Brian Burns, but those were versus tight ends and on a stunt. He was the only guy to just have a clean win on Aaron Stinney for a would-be sack, and they were giving him a lot of props. Again, I think he's someone that's going to shine in preseason. Probably not going to have a place, contributing this year, but he is making the most out of his opportunity.
Yeah, Elijah Chapman and Timmy Horn too.
Timmy Horn brings pop, dude. I'm excited to watch Timmy Horn in preseason.
In 1v1 and in team as well.
He looks like the strongest defensive tackle outside of Dexter Lawrence.
He really does. So that it's been the week of Timmy Horn, and it may even turn out to be the summer of Timmy Horn.
Wow. Honk your horn for Timmy Horn.
Honk your horn for Timmy Horn.
Other defensive notes, Justin. Javarius Owens.
I was just about to bring him up.
I want to feel vindication. The guy just makes plays in all areas of the game, right? Whenever they're running the ball, who's the DB that's usually closest to the ball when he's on the field? Javarius Owens. And today, I don't even remember who the receiver was. I got so freaking excited. Where he is in off coverage, right, as a safety. They run an out route on him, and he does a great job breaking on it, getting underneath the receiver, and gets his hands on the ball and tips it to himself for an interception on the side. I mean, that's
behind his back too.
That's the defensive play of camp. 6 practices so far. There hasn't been a better play by anybody on the defensive side in practice so far. Maybe the Brian Burns, win versus Andrew Thomas a few days ago. There hasn't been anything close to that. That was a strong move. And again, with Tyler Nubin out, right? Tyler Nubin's been out 5 of the last 5 practices.
Jalen Mills too.
Yeah, Jalen Mills out. Now, I hope that he's just put himself above the depth chart of Jalen Mills. But especially with Nubin out, I want to see Javarius Owens to get more of an opportunity. Because I actually think he's a player, right? And, I had a take last year that I know one was drafted in the 7th round and one was drafted in the 4th round. But when I watched their college films, I like Javarius Owens better than Dane Belton.
I'd wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, I would like to see, we talk about, the off defense giving up some big plays down the field. Belton's been the deep safety for a lot of those. I would love to see Javarius Owens get a chance. Now, he plays a little too instinctive at times, right? When he's that deep safety, I notice a lot, he's not bailing, and so he can get beat on a post, right? And you get away with it against the second team. When you're playing Jalen Hyde and Malik Neighbors, might not be able to get away with it. But I just like the aggression he plays with. He makes plays. You can bring him down the box, and he brings pop. He's a guy that I've really enjoyed watching for 2 years now. He shined in the preseason for me last year, and he's obviously a guy that I'm kind of known as the Javarius Owens guy, but it's because I do truly like him as a player.
Yeah.
I loved him as the 7th round pick.
When do we start to get a little concerned with Tyler Nubin and these soft tissue injuries?
I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't have much information to be concerned or not concerned. But
I
guess
want him out there.
The fact that he's not out there and it's a calf injury.
Once you get to the second preseason game, and then you're really worried. But if he gets back, Monday next week, then we're like, you forget that he missed the first half of camp.
It's the Azeez Ojulari syndrome, where you get the calf injury, and then it's just like, all right, well,
yeah,
you're close. You're close.
Hopefully, whenever he's back, it's not something that
he goes back out with.
Yeah,
again.
that's the worry. Let's see. What other defensive notes do I have?
You kind of touched on. I mean, it's been 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, I didn't. Justin, why don't you talk to us about something?
I'll talk to you about something. Oh boy, It's one of my favorite things to talk about every single day. There were a lot of people that heard me doing the pre-practice report that I do on Captain Morgan for Instagram. And there were a lot of people that were like, "Oh, you're sponsored by Captain Morgan? That's sick." And they even liked what I had to say. And they also liked, did you see that somebody took a picture of me?
Yeah, that was an amazing
mid-hot dog eating, mid-hot dog bite. Crazy. I don't know how I washed down my hot dogs at 9 o'clock in the morning.
What with what?
I wish it was with Captain Morgan. They don't let me bring it in.
Can I tell you something? We forgot one thing of news.
Okay.
Who did we lose today?
Oh, no. Yeah, one piece of defensive news. We lost Aaron Robinson.
Which is actually sad. Justin, you voted for him Rookie of the Year wrongly in that 2021 year.
Correctly. Correctly.
It is anytime a Giants player gets drafted, we get some type of emotion, even if we can't stand them. Like Alex and Smith, there's some sort of emotional attachment, even though it's not like logical. So Aaron Robinson. I'm pouring one out for Aaron Robinson.
Pour one out. Oh. Did you hear it?
You just poured one out on the ground for Aaron Robinson.
He poured one out.
I don't care if the John Boy Media office is mad at me because actually, how they could be mad at me? Imagine getting to walk into work and it smells like Captain Morgan.
I love it. Do you know that they're the official spiced rum of the NFL, Bobby Skinner? And the NFL season's upon us. You need the right players in the game, and you need them in the right spots. And we got Captain Morgan in all the right places. When it gets bland, try Captain Morgan Original Spice Rum. It's delicious and crisp. It's perfect for game day with friends, and it's the perfect official spiced rum of the L16 Talking Giants tailgate. Visit CaptainMorgan.com to find Captain near you. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Original Spice Rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company in New York, New York. You'll be glad you did, and we poured one out for Aaron Robinson.
I'm actually going to tweet that midstream. Poured one out for Aaron Robinson.
Poured one out for Aaron Robinson. Thanks, Captain Morgan.
Thank you. We wouldn't have done that without
No,
Captain
we wouldn't
Morgan.
have. We would have had nothing.
Perfect time for Captain Morgan to get aboard.
I actually do, and I smell it now. It's fantastic.
If I was... I'm not going to lick it off the ground. Nope. But I think some people would be tempted to because Captain Morgan's so good. But I'm not going to, because I already have a bunch I could drink. All right, Justin, offensively. Obviously, on the flip side of the defense, it was really rough, right? 5 of 13 today for Daniel Jones with 2 completions to Slayton, 2 to Wandale, and 1 to Hyatt. I got another short pass. You know, every day that happens, I feel a little better about him. A lot of would-be sacks and just kind of late on some stuff. They got fooled. Right, I don't know what happened on the Nick McLeod dropped interception because it wasn't like McLeod made some great play. It was within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage, and DJ just threw it right into his chest. I don't know what happened on that play at all. But honestly, like for me, I thought the worst moment for him was actually a completion where Wandale Robinson's on this crosser.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh, this could be a good yak play. This is it. Nice play down the field. And Wandale has to like stop, slow down, and dive backwards to make. He made the catch, but that was like the thing we've been talking about, like driving the ball, getting guys in good.
That wasn't even a situation where you needed to drive the ball.
It was like a 20 to 25-yard throw. Like
should have been a pitch.
Put ahead of him.
And I don't feel the need to go on and on about Daniel Jones.
Well, just offensively, it was a rough day, right? From the offensive line or the tight end standpoint, the receivers got locked up. The Flott and Banks pass breakups, like those guys were good and good coverage. On those plays. And Neighbors didn't get the full amount of snaps today.
It was kind of like a rest day.
Yeah, I think he got only the last series is when both those pass breakups in. It's like they got him in. He looked a little frustrated after the second one. DJ might have been a bit late on that one. Just a tough day for the offense overall. And here's something with the tight end battle. I didn't see much from Theo Johnson today. But Daniel Bellinger's really struggling as a pass blocker. It seems like once a practice, he is like literally like Kayvon's beating him or whoever's beating him for a sack. And it's not, this isn't just about Bellinger, but it's like how... They got to get that figured out because it seems like they're going to be reliant now that they don't have like this big receiving threat at tight end with like Waller anymore, that they may be just like getting back to some of that play action, let our tight ends block. But the ends have really taken it to them since they've started doing it.
Yeah, but that's why you drafted Theo Johnson, though. That Theo Johnson shouldn't just be play action, all right, leave our guys to block, and then, block and release type of deal, whereas average depth to target should be 3 yards. So I hope that's not the approach. And also the offensive line should be better, that we don't have to have the tight ends staying in and blocking. I mean, they were even doing that with Waller last year. I'm like, this is a 3rd and 7, and because we don't trust our offensive line, we have Waller on the field as a decoy, and he's staying in the block. So I hope that's not. I don't think that's going to be the approach.
Yeah, I'm just filling out something while I forget to do it. John Giles, he had a nice catch up the sideline.
Who's your guy?
Long arms. I love Big Blue Huddle, Rich. He sits with us. Mm-hmm. He's on crutches. He got hit by a car. Like the nicest guy ever, and he is like the perfect person to have next to me, because I could talk about every player in the roster, and he's got takes. He's got takes too. Like,
yeah,
he like I need him at camp. He missed the first few practices, and I was like, who do I talk to about the second year undrafted free agent that has never played?
Dennis Houston's still the best third team.
Dennis Houston's going to be,
receiver.
People are going to love Dennis Houston in preseason. Like, I think he probably has just the most catches of camp. The only person who might have more than him is Wandale Robinson. Yeah. But every Wandale catch is like 3 yards down the field.
He's making some plays down the field, yeah.
Like, I think Wandale's going to have 80 catches this year for 500 yards if we're going off of what's happened in training camp, in the way that he's not going to be too big part of the explosives. I know we don't take much stock into running back depth chart stuff because they rotate him so much, but Dante Miller did go out there to start a series with the first team, and it'll be interesting to see how serious they get on him. And they did inside drills, which is just offensive line, tight ends, running backs versus D-line linebacker, D-line linebacker and safety. And so just their run drills. I will say the offensive line did a fairly good job leaning on guys. Yeah. Now, again, the interior for the Giants D-line without Dexter Lawrence is very weak, but they did do a good job on that. Singletary had the first play would have been a really big play by Singletary, and John Runyon and I can't remember who. I think it might have been Schlottman. They had a double team where they pushed. I don't know which defensive tackle back, but pushed him back like 8 yards and put him on his ass. So, that's one thing where people can overrate the addition of a new offensive line coach, but one thing it can really help in is the cohesion of the run game, right? And they just look a lot better as a run unit than they did last season.
Yeah, I think everybody's moving pretty well up to the first level to the second level. Jake Kubis is a backup. He gets to
the second level so well, and
we noted that in our. Hey, if you're listening to our offensive UDFA episode and our favorite undrafted free agent this year in a weak undrafted free agent class, as Bobby Skinner likes to say, that was a guy that we noted. It's like, hey, this guy is going to move well up to the first level to the second level. I thought in 1v1s against Nacho, again, nothing to ride home about, but I thought he used hand replacement really well, and he got his hands in a good spot.
He's looked good.
So Jake Kubis has been. I think he's going to make the team number one. I think he should make the team number 2. And he's impressed me as camp has kind of gone on. And I'm not saying that he's going to, this guy could be a starter in the NFL. But definitely a guy that they could stash in a 50. They should stash him in the 53-man roster.
Yeah, there's a lot of UDFAs who offensive linemen in the NFL who start games. I put his scouting report on my Patreon write-up yesterday if you guys want to check that out. Let's do this, though, right now. Now that Greg Van Roten's being signed, who are your offensive linemen you're keeping on the roster? So I'm
keeping on the roster.
So
okay. So how many are we carrying? Let's just.
That's up to you. So it's Thomas, Runyon, JMS, Van Roten, Elminor, Neal, Stinney, Schlottman, and Kubis. I would probably have them holding 9, even though they could probably sneak Kubis onto the practice.
Did you
squad.
mention Azudu?
Oh, and Azudu. So that's the thing. I actually think Kubis probably goes to the practice squad because they can get him there. They couldn't get any of the other guys on.
I don't think they keep both Schlottman and Morrissey. Did you have both of them listed as guys that make
just Schlottman.
Okay. Yeah, so Schlottman or Morrissey, honestly, if you were to put those two guys in a room right now, I have a 50-50 shot at identifying who each one is. So Schlottman / Morrissey. I would like to keep Kubis, but you still have Stinney. So Stinney would be the main backup.
Kubis,
you also need a backup center.
Squad.
Kubis, you think he can sneak it? All right.
There's a UDFA.
Yeah.
Rookie UDFA.
If he plays well in preseason.
But you look at the waiver wire claims every year, and they're never UDFAs.
Yeah.
They're vets and rookies who got cut or late draft picks that got cut.
Yeah. And then because they're going to have Neal and Azudu on the roster because they're draft picks and they're both tackles. So you'll have 2 backup tackles, and then if you have that's 9. 2 backup guards and interior guys, one being a center, the other one being Stinney, and then you have Azudu and Neal. So that's 9.
Yeah. I think we're both on the same page with that. Other offensive notes, I think that was it. Obviously, not a very good day for the offense overall. Let's hit some questions. Well, what time? We're at
1:42, so we have a couple
25 minutes. Let's get some questions. Is McKeithen just done? Yeah, it feels. I don't like McKeithen at all.
Yeah, he hasn't. I haven't.
I have more of an emotional attachment to Aaron Robinson than I do McKeithen.
Yep. Never forget Aaron Robinson versus the Miami Dolphins in 2021.
That was my COVID pod.
Gave us a 28 seconds of a highlight video that I've shared like 4 times since then.
You're like me with RJ McIntosh his first 2 years, where I
Yeah.
was like, this guy has gotten a sack, tackle for a loss, or QB hit on 1 of every 8 rushes that he has.
Covered Jalen Waddle well. Made some diving plays on the football
You
against
joke,
Mike Gesicki.
but he'd be a perfect fit as a Nick. Like,
No, I'm not. No, it's not me joking. I injuries robbed Aaron Robinson of a solid career with the New York Giants.
yeah, I agree. Like, I think would be a perfect fit at nickel corner in this defense and Wink's defense. But he's gone forever.
How has Jordan Riley looked? He hasn't stuck out.
And again, it's hard to see defensive tackles unless they're just totally whipping ass. It's just hard to notice that in team drills unless they have a just clean initial win.
But the most notable thing about Jordan Riley is he's not, at least as of right now, he's not in play to be in like he will be part of a rotation at interior defensive line. Like, I'm not saying that he's not, but he is the backup to Dexter Lawrence. He is not necessarily in line to be playing next to Dexter Lawrence fully all the time from what we're seeing in camp. Because either it's Ryder Anderson, Nacho, right? Those 2 guys.
Yeah.
And then Dexter Lawrence at nose, or you have Jordan Riley when Dex is out playing at nose. They're rarely on the field next to each other at all. And that even includes like last year.
So someone in the chat brought something up, even though they're a little wrong. We forgot to talk about one-on-ones. One, Jordan Phillips, not Jordan Riley, burnt Runyon today in a one-on-one. So, he's been kind of cast to the third team and someone we thought was kind of a lock for the roster, maybe even a starter. But he killed John Runyon one. And I want to say this. I never want to get bored with how good Andrew Thomas is. I don't think this is our 3rd camp that we've been to. I don't think I've ever seen him lose a one-on-one. Ever.
No.
Ever. How does that happen? How does that a drill that is made for defensive linemen to win? I don't think I've ever. I mean, he fucking just stonewalled Brian Burns, and then next play goes and stonewalls Kayvon Thibodeau. Like Brian Burns in his press conference the other day is like, yeah, he pissed me off a little bit. Like, tomorrow's gonna have to be a battle. Well, it ain't been a battle the last 2 days. No. He's taking you to the woodshed every single time. Like, I never want to get bored with how just amazing that Andrew Thomas is, because he just kills one-on-ones. Chapman, like we said, had wins in one-on-ones. Eleanor, I think, looked pretty decent. I got to rewatch the clips that we have, but offensive line's done well. But I will say, John Runyon getting killed by Jordan Phillips gave me like a little bit of Mark Lewinsky's first one-on-ones with the Giants flashbacks.
Is Isaiah Hodgins a ghost? I'll tell you what about Isaiah Hodgins.
Not when he's facing Caleb Hayes. He catches deep passes contested against Caleb Hayes in one-on-ones.
This is what we challenged and asked him to do last year during camp. Now, granted, he was a starter last year and he was facing the first team, but he's actually made some contested catches this year, and some of the more flashier backup offensive plays and deep down the field have come when Isaiah Hodgins is on the receiving end. So that was interesting.
It's hard for him to get catches in the second team just because he's such a timing receiver, and Locke is just not that as a quarterback.
Yeah. Trey Herndon seems like he's just a camp body. I swung and missed on that. But if somebody gets hurt, that's always a possibility. Could Darius Mawasu get cut? I'm going to say no.
I think he's a special teams player.
Yeah, I think Matthew
he's really
Adams
struggled
will
in coverage since he's out there. But
I think Matthew Adams will get, which I predicted Matthew Adams would make the roster, and that's probably another swing and miss by me, where I think they'll keep Mawasu as as the special teams guy. You have Carter Coughlin as a special teams guy. Matthew Adams gets cut, and then you have Mawasu, Deontay Johnson, Micah McFadden, and Okereke. That's a lot of linebackers, but I think that's what they're going to go with.
All right, that's the stream, Justin. Thank you, Captain Morgan, for sponsoring it. We'll be back on Thursday and Hard Knock stream tonight.
Yeah,
too,
I
so
guess
check
we'll
that
do
out.
it tonight.
So we love you. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, let's go big